Hello and welcome to Love with Sialo. That's my name. And today we are talking about detoxing and why that's something that you might want to do and what are the challenges and also some of the misconceptions. I'm going to start with the misconceptions so that we can clear that and then go right into it. So some of the external factors, judgments around detoxing is an idea that restraint is a type of self-sabotage or a way of harming yourself. So some people will even go so far as to say that cleansing or detoxing or being vegan even is a form of eating disorder. And I will highlight that for some people who struggle with disordered eating, that detoxing on severe, strong layers can be just too far for where they're at. And so if disordered eating is something that you are struggling with, I would encourage you to be patient and gentle with yourself. One of the reasons that that can be so triggering is that when we restrict, it can trigger our desire to binge because we feel that we might not have enough. So detoxing can be very, very gentle, and it can have this spectrum all the way up to very advanced. And so I will cover kind of that spectrum today in the conversation. And please know that there is no better or worse way of doing it. It's just where you're at with your current journey surrounding food and your body's ability to process that food. So for a lot of people, we'll go right into it. For a lot of people, there are some commonalities between what we are ingesting and putting into our bodies, into our minds. And so detoxing has some similar patterns for people, specifically food and content and people. So those three things I find to be the most common places where we are receiving negative energy and or draining our energy. And often because it's so common and normalized, we don't realize that we're doing it. So those are the three areas that I would like to share about today. Before I go into the details of that, I would like to share that there is some reasons that might highlight why this is something that we do. So whenever we are in our day-to-day lives, we are most likely exposed to toxins, whether that is in the food that we're eating, like in processed foods, or in sugar, or in ingredients in foods that we buy that we don't realize are there. And that's a very common way that we are accumulating toxins. And the way that that sits in our body is often in our gut. So if you had something 10 years ago that wanted to go through your body, but you didn't have the system to be able to process it, it could still be sitting in your gut 10 years later. And whenever something is in your gut, this is my understanding. Again, I'm not a medical professional, so you have to do all your own research to verify this, whether it's true for you. But this is true for me. This is what I have learned through my 10 years of studying nutrition and the body and somatic therapy, is that whenever we have anything in our gut for longer than a couple of days, our body will start reabsorbing the toxins. So the toxin comes in through the body, it relieves itself through the body, and our body might be absorbing some of it. And then once it sits in the gut, it is meant to be released. But if we are not releasing it, then our body will continue to reabsorb those toxins through the gut lining. So clearing that and sending signals to our brain of reset in our addictions to foods can be really helpful in just creating a clearer system. Now in the mind, this is very similar in the media that we are digesting. So whether that's advertising, or whether that's scrolling on social media, or whether that's horror movies, you know, whatever it is to you that is creating clutter or negative ideas, or also maybe not so obvious, is just clutter in general of too much information, of useless information, you know, even just watching mind-numbing TV shows. This can really clutter the mind and cause the mind to have less clarity in general and less access to positive or creative energies. So clearing that is also one of the things. Now, in the energetic space, in regards to people and environment, whether you are not getting in nature on a daily basis, you're not receiving the sun, you're not touching the earth, you're not connecting with the trees, right, with the animals, that can be a way that your body is disconnected from its spiritual, energetic self. So that could be one way that you need to clear the resistance to that. And then with people, there are many, many of us who struggle with boundaries, myself included, because I was raised where it was in an environment that was not really safe to set boundaries, and so I had to really follow. And we all do this as children. It is nothing negative towards our parents or our family systems. It is simply the reality as a child that we are learning to follow systems. We are being conditioned. And so when we are in that situation, we don't set boundaries. We don't often learn how to set boundaries. Most of us have not learned how to set boundaries. So just to practice now as part of your detoxing of setting boundaries and saying no to spending time with somebody who does not add value to your life, and perhaps also of just noticing who is draining your energy. Do you feel energized afterwards, or do you feel depleted afterwards? Just asking yourself those questions can be a great start. Okay, so now how do we go about clearing? So we'll start with the physical. In the physical, there are a few things that are really proven to cause neurological damage and also to cause blockages, especially in the gut, disturbances in the digestive system. These things are specifically refined sugar, and this can be in places that you don't think of, like your coffee, and also dairy. A lot of people resist this one because our healthcare system has lied to us about how dairy affects our bodies, but dairy really does cause disturbances in most people's gut, and we can often call this lactose intolerance or IBS, but truthfully I think dairy is the issue for most people. Maybe you have a gut that can handle dairy and this doesn't apply to you. Take it as you will. And processed foods, like specifically canola oil, things that are deep fried, or even, you know, I bought some pumpkin seeds, like, oh, roasted pumpkin seeds, beautiful. It's coated in coconut oil, very common. Sorry, canola oil. And it is canola oil. It is those highly refined oils that are cooked in very high heat that become really toxic to our bodies. And it affects not just our gut, but also our brain chemistry and our hormones. So just cutting those for a little while, even if it's just 3 days with no sugar, no dairy, and no canola oil, that could be the level of detox that you are currently ready for. And that could be really intense for you. Even just having 3 days without sugar could be really intense for most people, because most of us have sugar in our diet on a daily basis, and sugar is highly, highly addictive and has quite a strong withdrawal effect. So you have to begin facing the challenges of what the withdrawal looks like. So I'm going to go in the end about what the withdrawal and the challenges of detoxing look like and how you can support yourself through those. So that's the food portion, just basics of what to avoid, things that you might want to avoid. And there might be other things that you know really trigger you, like grains or eggs or meat, or you might just want to go even deeper to another layer and go for a day or 3 days or however long of having a diet that is full of fruits and vegetables. So your detox might actually be not restricting anything. This would be really helpful for somebody with eating disorders, not to restrict anything, but to simply add things that are really going to help to clear. So that would be highly fruits and vegetables and perhaps healthy fats. And the healthy fats is maybe, depends up to you where you're at with that, but coconut oil can be really helpful to clear the system as well. So you might want to add healthy fats into your diet or add more fruits, more vegetables. Maybe it means having one meal a day, having fruit first thing in the morning. Maybe it means having a smoothie first thing in the morning every day for a little while. And it's just resetting your system and giving your system a really good dose of nutrients that maybe it's not used to. And it might also be adding extra vegetables to your meals. So instead of having, the average plate is like meat, starch, and vegetable, you could perhaps cut out the meat and have mostly vegetable with a little bit of fat and a starch with it. So things like this, we can kind of work with it and see what works best for you. I'm leaving it very open-ended with lots of options because it really is different for different people and depending on where you're at. Now, another layer deeper, which you may not be ready for, and I do not encourage you to go there if it doesn't feel good for you, is to use some support in cleansing the system. So because you might be holding on to a lot inside of the gut, even just adding those fibrous vegetables can really help to clear the gut, and the coconut oil, things like that can really help to clear the gut, olive oil as well, but avocado oil as well. But you can also use some more strong supports in clearing the gut. And the ones that are most recommended and that I personally find extremely supportive are enemas, which you need to do your own research as to that, and it is controversial, I understand, but I do find that it clears. An even stronger form of that would be colonics. If you prefer to go to somebody who is a professional who can do this for you, colonic will be even more effective than enemas. And also herbs that you can use to help clear your gut. I do not recommend detox teas. That is not my thing. It is not a weight loss thing. But if you are wanting to clear your gut to help your detoxing, once every few months, you might have 1 cup of a laxative tea to help you clear your gut if you're feeling that it's really stuck in there and that you really want to empty things out so that you can fill it with the healthy nutrients. Now, another thing to add while you're detoxing is probiotics. So really filling your system with the healthy nutrients is really important. So once your gut is clear, you want to add really healthy bacteria in order to support your system in this reset. So probiotics in the form of a highly dense probiotic, like 50 billion cells or more, would be ideal. And ideally, I have been recommended more often to find the ones that are refrigerated, because they are going to be more likely to have active bacteria in them. Another way that you can really reactivate your system to be more healthy and to have this healthy balance of bacteria is with greens. So adding greens into your diet, whether that's in the form of actually eating them or whether that's in a form of a more refined powder or even an E3 live, which is a sea veggie version, which is a live vegetable from the ocean, can be extremely effective at adding healthy bacteria and nutrients into the system to help reset everything while you're clearing or after clearing. Okay. Now, moving on to the mental side. I'm going to spend a little bit less time on this one because I think it's a little bit more obvious and less detailed, but a lot of us, we don't really realize it. We're just so used to having technology around us, having social media in our life. Our hand is always holding our phone, right? So to detox from that can be very challenging for us to process. And we can notice when you do set some boundaries with yourself about your technology or media consumption, that it can be really, really addictive. You know, we pick up our phones and start scrolling without even realizing that we're doing it. And I notice this the most when I'm on public transport. You know, I notice like 98% of people are on their phones. And no judgment, maybe they're doing work or something productive, but most of the time they're probably scrolling. So just to notice that we are in a world that is so familiarized, so normalized with this, and to notice that the effect that it's having on us and the really stifling effect that it has on our creativity is the most profound way. So even to have a unique thought or to think outside of the box can be really challenging if our mind is really full of information and ideas and images that we are constantly being receiving. So another version of this is what we are doing at home, right? So maybe you have a habit of watching TV before bed, and so before bed, which is very common, and before bed, we are really setting ourselves up for our dream space. And the dream space is a highly profound spiritual dimension, which a lot of things happen in that do affect our subconscious. And if you know about our subconscious, the subconscious is what drives our actions and our decisions. And that is so important, to set ourselves up before sleeping to be able to go into a dream space that is supportive and healthy. And if you are watching TV right before that, you are numbing that capacity, and you are also adding the influence of whatever it is you're watching that will karmically be processed in the dream space, which blocks you from receiving more higher levels of information in your dream space. So setting some boundaries for yourself might look like turning your technology off at night. Even just having it on beside your bed is very common, and you are constantly being exposed to the radiation that's in your technology. And this is extremely damaging to our bodies and especially to our brains. So even just turning it off at night can be really, really powerful in helping us to rejuvenate at nighttime. But setting boundaries to have it off for an hour or two before bed, to choose something other than technology before bedtime, can be a profound detoxing protocol that ideally is not just a detox, but is a long-term process. But for now, it might be just a detoxing for a couple of days, right? Okay. Now for environment and people, again, we have this idea that detoxing is really about what we're removing, but it is often about what we're adding as well. So when it comes to environment, just the process of choosing to be outside for 5 minutes a day, if you're not used to getting outside, can be quite a challenge to set that with yourself. And to go for a walk, to spend time in the sun, to put our feet bare on the earth so that we can receive the negative ions that Mother Earth is always giving us, but we usually block it with these rubber soles in our shoes, right? So even just going outside and putting your bare feet on the earth for 5 minutes can be extremely detoxing. We do release a lot of toxins through the soles of our feet. So if you can put your feet on the earth or in the water or whatever it is that feels good for you, that can be a really profound way of releasing a lot of those toxins that we are holding in our bodies. And the sun is another. The sun is extremely powerful. There's such a source of nutrients available to us in the sun. Synthetic vitamin D, it's only available synthetically if you're ingesting it, is not able to affect our body in the same way that it is in real source. So even if you're ingesting it through a drop or another type of supplement, you are not receiving vitamin D at its full capacity to support you. So spending a few minutes receiving the sunshine with bare skin and no sunscreen is extremely powerful in receiving that. And yes, I know that a lot of people out there are very scared of the sun for multiple reasons. And again, you need to decide what is true for you. And I'm not here to try to convince you of my belief, but if you do some research into the alternative beliefs outside of the typical medical systems research, which I will just remind you that the medical system is funded by the people who create the antidotes to the problems, right? So there's a problem right there just based on who is funding the research and why they're creating these studies. So if you can open your mind a little bit there to look at some alternative research around the sunshine, and you can begin to allow yourself to receive the sunshine, you will find many, many codes. And this is ancient technology from Taoists to Mayans to ancient Egyptians. You know, they all taught about the power of the sun, because the sun is our life source. We are part of the earth as human beings. So to receive the sun is our way to receive nutrients so that we can be on our highest potential. And with people, so boundaries is something that is kind of cliched and kind of like cheesy to talk about, but truthfully, learning how to set boundaries with the people in our lives is essential to our well-being, because there are so many people about there who are not taking our wellness into mind when they are interacting with us. And so it is on us, and it is our responsibility only to set those boundaries. And just the commonplace experience of having negative people in our lives can be found by the popularity of narcissism and the conversation about that in the public sphere, as well as in the more spiritual terminology, the energetic vampirism, which again is just so commonplace right now, and a lot of people are dealing with it. So as you become aware that this is happening, and you start to realize that you are perhaps giving energy to people who are not appreciating it and who are not able or willing to reciprocate it. And this might be okay in a small amount if it's somebody you really want to remain connected to for some reason. But in general, if you can set some more boundaries for yourself to just start looking, where are the people, who are the people in my life that are adding value and adding energy, and who I feel it's reciprocal. There's this cycle of give and take and receive and offer. And who are the people where I just really get drained and empty, and I never feel appreciated there, and I'm really not feeling good after being with this person. And to start setting boundaries with them, to start saying no more often, even if it's just giving a hug to somebody you don't really feel like it. It doesn't feel quite right, you don't feel it, and practicing saying, not today, thank you, or just putting out your hand for a handshake instead, you know, and just setting those boundaries by choosing what feels best for you rather than trying to do what the other person wants to do. And I would just like to add here that people pleasing is related with this, because a lot of us have a trauma response of wanting the other people to like us and doing what they would like for, what we think they would like for us, in order to have them like us, and just to acknowledge that that's actually a manipulation and that it did come from a trauma response, probably from our childhoods. So as an adult, it is no longer serving us, and setting boundaries and holding ourselves as sacred is really what's going to be able to rebuild our confidence there, so that we can say no and practice it, so that we can say it with confidence and without any weirdness. And when other people disrespect our no's by defending it, by taking it personally, by blaming us for something, this really is a sign of where that person is at. And if they are not able to respect our no and take it without question and just say, thank you for saying no, thank you for letting me know what you need. If they're not able to do that, you might want to just look a little bit deeper into why you're connecting with that person, whether that's actually healthy for you. Okay, the last piece here that I didn't mention at the beginning but is truly essential is in the breath, the airways. So the air that we are breathing is often highly full of chemicals and toxins, and just being able to breathe fresh air and take deeper breaths that truly are filling our body with the nutrients available in the air can be really powerful as well in helping to detox. So looking into some breath work options that can help you to clear the system, going to a place where the air is more clear, whether that's a hike or even just a forest in the city, there will be cleaner air there because the plants are able to clean the air for us and add oxygen to the air. So those can be really helpful ways of clearing the system as well. I do really encourage you to look into breath work if it's not something you're into. Just take a look at it, because it is profound in its ability to add energy to your system and to open up the pathways in the brain and to give your system the ability to clear as well. We do release in our exhales. Now, to go into the challenges that we come upon when we are going through these processes of removing things that are really detrimental to us, but we have kind of that addictive nature, is quite a strong psychological challenge. So just to notice what happens when you remove something like this, whether that's sugar or scrolling social media or saying no to somebody that you're so used to saying yes to, and noticing how your mind and how your body reacts to that. So there is a willpower factor to it, and I encourage you, the most powerful way that you can move through that challenge is to breathe deeply, to really give yourself permission to feel what is coming up and to breathe into it, to experience it. The more that you avoid it and turn away from it, the more loud it will become, and it will be really challenging to go through that experience and to overcome that if you are avoiding it. So if you can, give yourself permission to just look it in the eye and say, I see you, I feel you, and I welcome you, because I know that in facing this challenge, I will be able to overcome whatever is happening here, right? So it can be really beautiful and really challenging. It is a spiritual practice, this, to give ourselves permission to be okay without something that we have become so used to. and it clears ourselves on a very deep, deep level that is beyond the physical. So it becomes a process of developing courage and strength to be okay with the sensation of hunger, to be okay with the discomfort of saying no to somebody who expects us to say yes. And there is so much power available for us in experiencing that and really facing it. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. If this was helpful for you, I would really appreciate if you can like and comment on this video so that we can help spread this message to other people, and so that we can support what I am doing in helping people connect deeper to who they really are and in keeping themselves really healthy and strong. So thank you so much for your support in that way. Very easy way to support me for free. And also in the comments, if you can please let me know, was this helpful information for you? Is there more information that would help even more? Do you have any questions? And that can help me create more content that is specific to what you need so that I can support you for free. So please do that. Please support me. Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful for sharing this space with you. Thank you for listening. Please take all of it with a grain of salt. And you are free to disagree with me. There is no problem with that. Many people do disagree with this topic. And I'm sending you so much love. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Blessings.